fun, and good to be back on the stripes on finally a day that felt like fall, and you guys rolled to a victory over Northwestern State.
Yeah, it was a huge weekend at UCA, Hall of Fame weekend. A Chamber of Commerce type day, I think is what they call them.
Yeah.
And that was a welcome sight considering the kind of weather we've had up to this point throughout the season, which everybody's been dealing with it, from high school games to college games and, all places in between. But it was a good night. We were glad to cap it off with a big win against Northwestern State.
The amazing thing to me, I was looking at again, you only got 4 games left in the regular season. Has the season gone quickly for you here in your first year?
It's unbelievable how fast it's gone. We talked the other day. I told the seniors at the end of the game against Northwestern on the field, I said, look, guys, y'all got 12 more practices. Regular season practices.
Right.
Obviously, our goals are to play in the postseason, but 12 more regular season practices, and it feels like we just started this thing. So, I mean, it goes by fast, but that's the way football season works. It's once you get going, you get in the grind, and you're pushing each and every week to put a game plan together and go beat an opponent. It goes by really fast.
I would think that seeing what happened this weekend around the league, it will not be hard to get your team up for the final 4 games. There are truly even on paper, there are no gimmies left for your team. This is a wide-open conference race, and obviously the team that wins the Southland outright automatically goes to the postseason. You would hope that a couple other teams will find a way to get in as well. But, my goodness, from a coaching standpoint, pretty easy motivation, right, week to week?
Yeah, and I said it, I think we've talked about it some on the show, and it's just an even league this year. I mean, we've got a lot of new coaches, new faces, new staffs, a lot of extra motivation for those programs that maybe historically haven't been at the top. And it's just there's not one dominant team, at least at this point. So it's going to take a great effort week in and week out, and I think it's a testament to get wins when they come. Wins are hard to come by. No matter who you're playing, who the opponent is, what the situation is, but specifically this year, I mean, any win is big. So we've got 4 more weeks, and obviously we're taking it 1 week at a time, and our players are going to try to make the most of it.
What do you need? What do you think you have to do to make it into the playoffs?
Well, we need to win out. I mean, you don't want to win 3 or 4 and get to an 8-win mark and be 8-3 and then leave it in the committee's hands. We would love to win out because our first goal is to win a conference championship. If we win out, we play the 2 teams that we're tied at the top with right now in our last 4 games, so we would win the conference title, obviously solely, and that would give us the automatic bid. So we talked about it Sunday night in our team meeting. We're in a 4-game stretch here, 4-game schedule. We've got 4 games left, and obviously great teams take them one at a time, and that's our plan. We'll worry about the next one next week, but it's going to take great effort each week, and I think anytime you can keep it out of the committee's hands and take care of business yourself, and that's what you want to do.
You want to keep it out of the committee's hands even when your athletic director is the head of the committee, right?
Well, we hope we've got someone fighting in our corner, which is going to be big, and when it comes down to that. But obviously, for his sake and just in general, we want to take care of business like we want to do.
Well, and last year, for those who don't understand the FCS, it's a 24-team playoff, and you get top 8 teams get a weekend off, and then they get a home game, and it's obviously great to get that week to sort of heal up and prepare for the following week and to have an opportunity at a national seed. I think if you guys win out, you'll have a good look at that with all the upsets we're getting every week.
Yeah, last year I think we ended up as a 4 seed, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's obviously important that time of year. If you can get a week off, you take it. That's a chance to rest and recover. Kind of get your battery recharged and get ready for a run. And winning 9 games and going 9-2 in the Southland Conference, which obviously is a pretty good conference this year. Beat a good Murray team. And if we can handle our business for the last 4 games, our only losses on the road and overtime to a top 15 opponent at that time, we would think we would have a good shot at getting a national seed. But that's far distant future in my mind. I'm focused on beating McNeese State this weekend.
So McNeese obviously took one on the chin last weekend against an Incarnate Word team that has kind of come out of the blue for a lot of people this year. But going down there, it's going to be a ton of cowbells. They're going to be into it, and their back's against the wall. They know they can't afford to slip up again. What kind of challenge do you expect, especially from their defense this weekend?
Well, one, they've got the best defense in the conference. Statistically the best defense in the conference. Coach Guidry is their head coach. He's a defensive coordinator as well. He's a defensive-minded guy, very aggressive play caller on defense, someone that's going to be a challenge for us. And that's just a tough place to play. Lake Charles, Louisiana is one of the toughest places to play in the country at this level of football. I mean, I think they've called the place the Hole, and it's, you know, they've got cowbells, an unbelievable following.
Yeah.
I mean, to me it's a small sample size of what LSU fans are like. It's very similar. I mean, they're very passionate. They come in drones. It don't matter what their record is. They're always going to be there to support, and they're going to be hostile. So we've got to be prepared and you know, to go down and play. Obviously, they'll probably still be a top 10, 12 ranked opponent, even with the loss. You know, with their history. So it's going to be a tough task, but it's something I think our players are ready for.
Even before you became the head coach, and when you were the offensive coordinator, we started kind of quietly calling you the quarterback whisperer. We are always astounded by the level of quarterback play at Central Arkansas, and it is a unique thing for those who watch football around the country. Typically, there's a significant drop-off quarterback to quarterback. So Braylon Smith goes down in the Sam Houston game. Kirk Ball finishes it out. He gets dinged up, and you bring in Luke Hales to the rescue. 5 touchdowns and a touchdown run in his first game. What are you doing that's working? How do you get guys ready where the performance is at such a high level, regardless of who's taking the snaps? Because Wes is wondering, did you miss on Luke out of the gate? We were trying to figure out what was
he
going
doing
on there.
buried third on the depth chart is what I'm wondering.
Listen, it starts with recruiting. It's, you know, we've got a specific profile that we put together when we're looking for a quarterback out of high school that we want to fit that mold. And I think it all starts with recruiting. I think that's where a lot of programs miss. They miss on recruiting. They may see the stars or what maybe their private coach, you know, deems as being a special player. But I mean, we do a lot of background into quarterbacks. We talk to counselors, we talk to teachers, families. You know, I want that kid to have all the intangibles that you're looking for, and then we feel like once they get on campus, we can develop them physically, and I feel like we've, you know, that's something I've taken great pride in as I've gotten in this coaching business, as I've moved forward through this process, is developing quarterbacks, and that's my biggest pet peeve in this profession is not having quarterback play. And you look across the country, and I'm talking from the NFL down to high school football and all parts in between, teams that don't have a quarterback that can get the ball down the field, move the chains, get the ball in the end zone, they don't win. You know, and it starts with in the NFL, and then you look at high school teams. I mean, and then obviously in college. So it doesn't matter to me, and I said this when Braylon went down. Obviously, Braylon is the future. He's a person that I feel like can be one of the best to ever play in the program at UCA. But when he went down, you know, my attitude toward the situation was, hey, whether it be Kirk, and obviously he got dinged up, or whether it be Luke Hales from Greenwood, or whether it be B'Shawn McCray from Orlando, Florida, you know, those guys are on scholarship too. We brought them there for a reason. It's just their time came a little quicker than maybe what we wanted it to be.
I want to talk to you about another in-state guy, and you and I were texting over the weekend, and I actually was talking to one of your super fans over the weekend as well about this, and I don't say this lightly because I've never said it before, and there have been some great backs that have come through there, but I think you got a kid on campus this year that will have a case to be made for a chance to play at the NFL level. And we're talking about Carlos Blackman, who is a Gosnell product. You never think out of little Gosnell, Arkansas, that a kid of his talent would come through. What do you see from him, and what do you think the ceiling is for him?
Well, the ceiling's as high as he wants it to be. He is one of the most – he possesses one God-given size. He's 6'1", 225, 230 pounds, depending on the day. But he possesses the ability to make people miss in the open field and run with the pad level of a guy that's 5'9". And that's something that's you don't coach. Obviously, you know, the old cliche, you know, as a running back coach is get him to the bus. And that's kind of what you have to do with Carlos. I mean, you don't overcoach him. He possesses natural talent to see the hole. But then what's amazing is the amount of pad level that he plays with at that size. You know, defensive backs will go to try to hit him at the knees, and he gets lower than defensive backs. You know, and Carlos really worked hard from his sophomore to junior year, which this is his junior year, so he's got another year left at working on his quickness and speed. And I think you can tell, you know, when he gets in the open field, he's a step quicker this year. And if he can make that same stride next year going into his senior year, there's no question that kid's going to be an NFL talent and someone that the scouts are going to come look at. I know we have scouts come in our program, you know, each week, and you know, he's a guy that they look at and say, man, he's a junior, so he's on their radar, and he has been for the last couple of years.
Your defense seems to be getting better each week, and really did a good job last week. I would have to think next week that will be the key when you go down there because of what they do defensively, and you're on the road, you need your defense. What do you like about what you're seeing with your defense?
Man, well, our defensive line is starting to assert themselves. I knew that was a strength of ours, from day one. We've got a lot of guys returning. We got 2 All-Americans on the defensive line from last year, and Chris Terrell and Eric Jackson. And then we've got a kid, Nathan Grant, on the opposite side of Chris Terrell, who's potentially, he's a sophomore, who's potentially going to be as good or better than Chris Terrell even is. So those guys are starting to assert themselves. We're making teams one-dimensional, and when you make teams one-dimensional, when I say that we're stopping the run and forcing the pass, that means our defensive line can now pin their ears back and know what's coming. They can go rush the quarterback. When you can rush the quarterback, that makes your defensive backs better. So Coach Thurman, they're starting to get more and more comfortable with his system. Now, we're running a lot of the same stuff we've done there. That's one of the reasons, I was able to hire him and get him here was because we recruited towards, a 3-4 scheme and a lot of the same stuff that we've done in the years past with Coach Stewart. Coach Thurman, does the same stuff. So, but he's a little more aggressive. He does a few more fronts, and our defensive guys are getting more and more comfortable with that. And I think they're starting to play with a lot of confidence. And a lot of playing defense is confidence. If you got guys that play with confidence, then they can get that snowball effect going, and hopefully it continues to get better each week.
We're talking to Nathan Brown here at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. We'll carry his speech. You doing speech or Q&A today? How are we doing this?
I'm going to give a little speech.
Okay,
I'll take some questions, though.
I'm looking forward to this. But, again, it's just been an interesting year, and this is a team, for those who are not intimately familiar, like, those of us who follow it closely are – that on paper maybe look like it was a year away. I mean, you got some great seniors, not to discount that, but this is a team that is the entire offensive line underclassmen. Leading tackler Juan Jackson's an underclassman. Carlos Blackman's a junior. All your quarterbacks are underclassmen. I mean, it's insane that you guys are where you are. Do you feel like maybe this team's a little ahead of schedule?
I don't want to say ahead of schedule because our expectations at Central Arkansas is to win every year.
Right.
And that's the culture that has been bred there for years and years and years, way before I got there. You look back at the successful teams, and it's just, I talk to our guys every week. There's a difference in expecting to win on Saturdays, going home expecting to be winners, and hoping to win. There's a big difference in that. And I think the culture has developed that we expect to be winners. It's the next man up mentality. And, we've done a great job recruiting. We had the top recruiting class in the South last year, I think 8th nationally. And a lot of those guys are coming in and making an impact, especially with that 4-game redshirt rule, getting them some experience in some different situations. But, it's great to have, seniors in your program. But it's like we were talking before, off air, you got 85 guys on scholarship, and it doesn't matter what year they are, the expectation doesn't change there. Yeah. And that's the way we've coached them, and that's the way we're going to continue to coach them.
Your wife, I call sort of kiddingly the promoter.
She's a great promoter.
She is a great promoter. She's right there by your side at every opportunity. And you are, I love the way you balance your family life and your work life, and obviously you don't lose sight of what's really important in the world. How do you do it so well, and how do you sort of, from a schedule standpoint, how do you kind of balance things out? I know you try to include them where it's appropriate, like at the coaches show tonight. They'll be, your kids will be running around. That's always fun. They help me pack up every night, which is great. I appreciate that. But what do you do to try to make that work well? Because a lot of coaches probably don't do such a good job of that.
Well, I growing up and talking a little bit about myself, growing up, my family I grew up with both my parents. I was a big part of family. Everything we did together, sports, church, whatever it was. So obviously I was given a great example growing up. And then to me, you lose sight. A lot of times coaching gets the grind of coaching gets in the way of time and family, and you see guys get burnt out, and that's one thing I don't want our coaches to do. I want their families to be involved. I want them to go home after practice and eat dinner with their families. We're not going to stay up there till midnight. I mean, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it in my opinion, and there's a wrong way to do it, and there's always there's all spots in between, and it's like people say there's a million different ways to skin a cat. But my opinion is, if you want to be playing late in the season, you want to have energy from your coaching staff and players, you've got to have balance. If you grind yourself out and you're sitting here in late October and you're grinding the midnight oil every night at midnight and getting back up there at 5 a.m., I mean, you're going to burn yourself out. It's just natural. So, I want to involve Jessica and Riley and Luke and everything I do, and obviously our assistant coach is the same way. And, and it kind of starts with my boss. Dr. Teague, he's got a family atmosphere as an athletic department, and it's just a great atmosphere at UCA, and something that a lot of people don't know. We're right there in Conway, Arkansas, but I think it's still the best kept secret, not only in the South and the nation, but in Arkansas. People don't understand what's going on there, and it's just from great leadership all the way down to our players. And I want my kids, my literal kids, not my kids on the football team, but my literal kids, Luke and Riley. I want those players to love them just like I love them. So it's been fun process involving them and just playing the dad role as well as the coach role.
Is there a limit? Like I can only imagine me being obsessive the way I am in general, and I know you're about as competitive as guys I've ever met in anything.
Yep.
To think, okay, if I spend 5 more minutes, I might find that play that makes the difference in a critical situation, or we might be finding a way to get a stop. How do you sort of cut it off and go, okay, that's it?
Well, I think at times you can hurt yourself by doing that because what you'll do is you'll start second guess what you did an hour ago. So to me, it's about being efficient within the hours you're working. What are you doing when you're at work at 7 a.m. to noon? Okay, well now we're going to lunch. Well, were we effective for those 4 hours? You know what I'm saying? So that's what's important to me is when we're in there working, when we're game planning, when we're practicing, whatever it is, how efficient are you being? I talked to our players last night. Great teams continue to get better as the years go on. We're week 8 or 9 right now. The great teams get better every week, and it's not about going extra time. We're not going to grind out 2-hour practices this time of year, but how efficient are we being in that hour and a half we're out there? Mm-hmm. Are we getting better? So are we being efficient game planning? Are we spending the adequate amount of time in the right area to win the football game? And, we've done a great job of that at UCA. I've worked for 2 great coaches that kind of thought that way, and Coach Conk and Coach Campbell. And, I kind of married my own philosophies in between. And right now it's working. We've got to continue to get it going and get wins.
Do you talk to Coach Campbell?
I do. Actually, I talked to him probably 3 or 4 times, throughout this season so far. Congratulate them on the win. They had a big win against Alabama State. They're in a tough spot. They're trying to rebuild a program at South Alabama. A lot of the coaching staff that I coached with is down there with them. They've got a big game tomorrow night, by the way. It's on ESPNU. Or ESPN2, I believe, against Troy tomorrow, Tuesday night. So some of that they call that Fun Belt action. So they've got a big Fun Belt game tomorrow night, and so it'll be big. I talked to Coach Kitchens down there this morning, actually. So I stay in touch with those guys. And, man, Coach Campbell is a great mentor for me for 4 years, as well as Coach Conk for the previous 5 years. So just 2 great guys to work under, and both of them had different ends of the spectrum as far as their philosophies and how they coached and how they treated people. But I've got to take their positives and negatives and kind of put what I feel like was best, and hopefully I'll continue to have good people around me and have success.
Well, and another guy that you worked with as a teammate is doing a pretty good job over at Memphis. They've not had the kind of year that he's been used to so far this year. But another guy that you can sort of you guys got to be able to share not only just sort of life experience, but there's got to be some football conversation there too.
Absolutely. Mike Norvell's a great friend of mine, just doing a phenomenal job, obviously as an offensive coordinator leading up to this head job at Memphis, and this future's bright. I mean, he's gonna be probably an SEC coach sooner rather than later, and it's just doing a phenomenal job at Memphis. And he's a guy that we'll go watch spring ball and relay ideas off each other, and just it's kind of like that coaching fraternity deal. But it's good to have guys like that.
There's something special about coaching your alma mater, I'm assuming, and you have bled purple, I think, for a long, long time, and people understand that. Can you ever imagine a scenario where maybe an opportunity comes along where you think, I got to look at that? Or you're so happy doing what you're doing, maybe it's not even in your brain?
Man, I'm so happy what I'm doing. I mean, I've got to pinch myself every day I go to work because I'm going to work at a place I love, a community I love in Conway. love the Central Arkansas area. And just an opportunity at a young age. Obviously, I'm blessed to have this opportunity. But that I'm so in the moment right now and trying to go at what we've got and the task at hand that I don't even think about that. There's something to be said about a lot of times content's a bad word. People use that as a bad word, but to me, content's a good thing. And not to say that I'll be complacent or that the fire's ever going to leave because it's just getting started. We've got a special thing going at UCA. The sky's the limit for this place. And then I work for great people and President Houston Davis and Dr. Brad Teague, our athletic director, and there's a lot to be said for that as well.
Were you always wanting to be a college coach, or did the NFL ever come into your mind as a coach?
Yeah, the NFL really never came into my mind. Now, I had a chance to be a part of a couple organizations as a player, really short amount of time. Great opportunity for me to learn and learn from NFL coaches, but that's never really entered my mind. When I was coming out and deciding what I wanted to do, and obviously coaching was the answer. It was like, okay, do I want to go high school or do I want to go college? And obviously college worked out. With Coach Conk giving me an opportunity to come back to UCA and be an assistant coach for him and at the place I played, so it worked out. So NFL's never really triggered, my thoughts or mind. I'm just so entrenched in, the college process. I love recruiting. I love the relationships you get in college because, bottom line is you're from 18 to 22 years old, you're affecting young men's lives for the rest of their life. Well, the decisions they make for these next 4 or 5 years of their life is going to affect them for the next 50 years of their life. So it's an important time in student athletes' lives, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
One last thing, we'll let you go in here. One of the things that stood out to me watching you as a freshman when you were getting significant playing time and leading your team is that you weren't afraid to get on guys.
No.
And there's something about leadership, and some of that is learned, but some of that is just innate. Where does that come from for you think?
I don't know. I've always been kind of thrust into positions in a quick moment, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Playing as a freshman, my high school career, I kind of got thrown in quick and had to respond quickly. Coaching career has kind of been the same way. And I don't know that you can teach leadership, and I'm seeing that more and more as I get into this coaching deal. You want to develop leaders, and I think you can teach qualities. But leadership is something that is God-given, something that you're kind of just born with, and it's kind of like going out on a limb. Can't be afraid to be the bad guy if you're a leader, And I talk to our, who I dub as our leaders on our program. Hey, look, sometimes you've got to be the guy that people look at and they go, why is he being like this towards me? Well, he's being a leader. He's there's a time to get on people and there's a time to obviously motivate people and pat them on the bottom. So, it's something that I felt like I've had my whole life and hopefully I'm using it in a positive light and the program will continue to get better because of that.
I love high school football. I know you do, but who are some of your high school football coaches, guys that you kind of look up to or thought, really like to pattern yourself after?
Yeah, well, it starts with my head coach. He's actually out of coaching now, but Jeff Holt at Russellville for years. He's the winningest coach in Russellville history. Had a great run of quarterbacks, in his time there. And he was just a really personable guy. He was a player's coach, someone that they liked working for or playing for. I look back at a guy like Coach Lockridge, who's the head coach at Alma High School now. He was the defensive coordinator when I was there. I mean, just those guys had a passion. I mean, you see football at its finest at the high school level. I'm a big believer of that because, one, the coaches love to coach. They're not getting paid a ton of money. They're usually teaching a subject or two. But you're also – the players are playing for the love of the game. You got a team of 50 guys, 2 of them are going to go on and play college football, maybe. So the love of the game is there, and that's just so fun to watch as high school coaches and high school players develop throughout years, and that was some of the best times of my life.
Well, let's before we let you go, we're going to harken back to a time when you were not calling the plays and you were not leading the team except on the field. You were actually taking the snaps and throwing touchdowns. Maddie has dug up a highlight. We don't have to go back too far. You're not that old, but here's a little clip from the playing days, and we'll let you get on your way.
1st and 10 of the 16. Pressure's coming. Nathan lobs it. Ware's open. Touchdown, UCA! What a throw by Nathan Brown. Over the shoulder catch by Eric Ware. And with 10:32 to play in the first quarter, we'll call these opening jabs. It's 7-6.
Sully's the man.
Isn't he good?
You remember that? You remember the play? You know exactly what it was?
I just off that, probably not. I don't
know what game.
I don't know what game.
That was
UCA versus Tulsa.
Tulsa. You hear me say that? Yeah. So, I mean, that's crazy because as a coach, I guess you're just conditioned with that. I mean, I remember plays from being a player. I remember plays my first year of coaching. It's just, stuff like that sticks out in your mind. Obviously, special moments and also really negative moments. You just that's something you possess. I don't know. Hopefully, I can keep my brain matter up so I can continue to remember stuff. So, but it's been a good ride, and this is a special deal, and I'm glad to be here at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and obviously more than anything, not for myself, but for my team and the University of Central Arkansas. It's about representing what we've got over there, not only as a football program, but an athletic department and a school in general. It's just it's a special place and somewhere that, to me is going to continue to rise and be one of the premier universities and programs in the country.
I agree. All right, Coach, thanks for the time. Enjoyed it. We'll look forward to hearing your speech inside.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, very good. Nathan Brown.